Brett, welcome to our, what is this? I think it's our fourth or fifth podcast. It's still a working title for our Pattern podcast, but excited to have you. Please introduce yourself, your title.
Thanks for having me. Now I know I'm number 5 in your most important list of people. It's an honor to be part of this yet unnamed podcast. My name's Brett Bardsley. I lead the international team at Pattern. That means we've got teams in Europe, we've got teams in the Middle East, in Australia, and throughout Asia, including China, Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia. So it's an honor to work with them. That's a relatively new role for me. Prior to this role, I was leading the advertising team at Pattern, along with the content development team and the TikTok and creators teams. So it's been a fun ride.
Cool. That seems like a big job to be working globally. How did you become like the international guy at Pattern?
That's a great question. It honestly wasn't on my radar. I was quite happily working with the advertising and creative teams. A role opened up, and Dave, the co-founder, approached me and said, "Hey, what do you think?" And I was taken aback by it, honestly, but as I was thinking about the opportunity and just the growth that needs to happen and can happen internationally is just terribly exciting. When you look at the size of the e-commerce in China alone versus US, and to consider that we only do, currently roughly 100 million a year there, the sky's the limit. If we get the right structure in place, we bring the great tech and capabilities that we have in the U.S. to China, and the same thing for Korea, the same thing for the Middle East, same thing, just on and on and on. You know that the old movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Sure.
And there's that scene where they walk out of the door and they walk into this room, and the entire room is made of candy. And the kids, like, minds just blow, and they're running around and eating. That is international right now with e-commerce. There's so much growth. There's so much to do. So the hardest part for me really is just choosing, of the thousands of opportunities, which ones we're going to focus on.
So basically, honestly, I have a question. So really cool that you were in Amsterdam and now you have all of this international experience. What strategies have you had to adapt? And obviously working with people outside of America is very different. Is that a challenge? Is that like a dance that you're constantly trying to figure out? Do you have any funny stories of just cultural mishaps that or lost in translation type stories?
Yeah, it was interesting coming in, and I knew this, having worked in an international role in the past, but I had just come from the advertising team where we went through and spent a good amount of time with standardizing kind of structure and ways of working. And so I came into it, guns a-blazing, ready to standardize and optimize, and realized quickly that, while that's indeed the case for 70 to 80% of the job that I had to have the flexibility and humility to know that, that 30%, we need to be able to tailor to the unique customs of the consumers in each of those areas, and the brands and their needs. And so it's been fun understanding each of the regions and learning with the team how we need to modify, what must be standardized to ensure that for any brand partner that we have, that it's the exact same experience for them. Sure. Going from one region to another, while also tailoring it to the unique needs. So, for example, in Europe, there's just so many more marketplaces. You don't have the dominant Amazon player that you have in the US. And so by design, you have to have the ability, and your tech has to be able to flex to be able to support those different marketplaces. Then as you go to the Middle East, where while Amazon is a dominant player, you've got much different legal and regulatory compliance considerations to consider, and you need to be able to flex that way. In Australia, you've got the very different mix of not only marketplaces, you've got the regulatory compliances, especially for vitamins and nutritional supplements, so significant barriers of entry. And then the fact that you're literally on the other side of the world and figuring out how to operate that way. And then finally with Asia, each country obviously has its different complexities, needs, and you need to have a team that's based there that not only can support China and that's growth, but can flex and to support each of those regions. So learning a ton. It's been fantastic. Every region has strengths that I would love to like copy and duplicate in the others. So it's trying to figure out, again, that standardization, but also the optimization from each region and how to apply that across the full international team.
Got it. And out of all of the different markets that you work across, obviously maybe Asia or China is the most obvious, but what are you, like, which one has the most opportunity, do you think?
China, for sure, when you look at the sheer size of the financial opportunity. And within China, there are kind of three key paths that we at Pattern, and I think businesses in general, need to unlock. So the first one is what we've been doing over the last couple of years is bringing international brands, primarily U.S. brands, into China and supporting them through a cross-border effort. That's great. There's still a huge amount of opportunity there, and we'll continue to work on that. The second one that we're building out is actually what we're calling East to West, which is taking Chinese manufacturers and helping them launch or accelerate in Europe or the U.S. In the U.S., in Amazon specifically, roughly 40% of all sellers in Amazon U.S. are Chinese manufacturers. So that is massive number of sellers that many times need support knowing how to bring their brands to the U.S. with excellence. So what's the right branding that resonates with U.S. consumers? What's the right imagery and content? What is the right advertising strategy for their specific brand? If you're in any country, trying to do all of that in another country without local support is extremely difficult. And so I don't know anyone else as the number one seller globally that is better positioned than Pattern to be able to bring them and do that with excellence. So that is a new initiative that we are kicking off now and is going extremely, extremely well. We're sitting down with manufacturers in China, and I've never seen this response where in the middle of our presentation, they are standing up and saying, we want to partner with you. I've never had a business presentation like that. So it's super exciting to see that response. That's the second kind of initiative. The third one is domestic. Mm-hmm. China government is supporting and reinforcing domestic business as they see that as a way to circumvent tariff headwinds that we all are aware of, and also just keep the money within China local. And so what we're doing is building up the capability to be able to support brands that are manufactured domestically in China to then sell and operate in Tmall and JD and Douyin and all their top marketplaces. So that's just one example within China of, yes, you say China, that's an opportunity, but there's three very different go-to-market strategies that we need to build up to unlock that opportunity. Korea, when you look at countries and e-commerce markets that have the biggest upside, Korea is at the top of that list. The usage of mobile phones and the likelihood of consumers to buy via e-commerce versus traditional brick and mortar is the top, if not at the top three internationally. They've got wonderful marketplaces like Coupang, which is similar to Amazon but a bit more promotional in nature. They have Naver, which is similar to Google but more leans more into shopping and e-commerce. But fantastic marketplaces, and so Pattern's partnering with Coupang to make the expansion, especially for U.S. brands, into Korea as simple as possible. So what we're doing is we're actually buying inventory from U.S. brands, and then we will actually air freight it with Coupang over into Korea so that consumers can get the product in 2 days. And we do it cross-border so they don't have to go through the traditional classification and regulatory piece. So that allows brands for the first time, without needing to change their product whatsoever, be able to get products into consumers' hands in Korea in a very short amount of time, and that's incremental business for them. So those are a couple examples of really exciting opportunities for Pattern and brands.
Cool. I mean, it's really great to hear how big of an opportunity that we have internationally and just generally at Pattern. I think that opportunity is so big because of the people, obviously our tech and our software, but also just the people at Pattern and all of the really smart and capable people at Pattern. That was at least the first thing that I noticed when I was a part of Current and we got acquired by Pattern, and I'm walking around the hallways at the HQ. I'm like, damn, there are some really smart people here, like data science from Harvard and all that. I'm like, not that Current, we had plenty of smart people, but some next level big brains at Pattern, which that's why I love working here. So could you speak on maybe what makes Pattern such a unique place to work, and then also maybe one or two people in specific that really inspire you?
Your experience is the exact same experience that I had, and a very common kind of feedback as people come in and join Pattern. The comment is, man, there are a lot of smart people here.
Yeah.
And I felt so dumb for probably a good 3 months, just sitting in these meetings, and I was like, I've got nothing to contribute. I am the dumbest person in this room. But it was so exciting because I was learning so much. I'd go home and talk to my wife and be like, geez, I am learning a ton. And now I've been here for a few years, and it's still the case. I go in a meeting and it's like, wow, I feel like I'm selfishly learning more in this meeting than I should, because I need to be contributing more. So that's what I love. And I say, like, the one thing about Pattern that makes it so unique is you've got an extremely smart, driven people that have extremely low egos. Mm-hmm. And that combination is very tricky to get. And I really credit Dave and Mel for building a culture and an expectation that if we bring people in, you've got to be super smart, you've got to be leveling up an already, sharp group of people, but you got to be doing it for the right reasons, where it's a we, not a me. And that's why I want to stay with Pattern, for years to come, because you don't have the traditional kind of backbiting. You don't have the politicking.
Sure.
There generally is the consensus of very smart people trying to do really big things. And there's a quote from, I think it was President Truman, where he says, it's amazing what can get done when you don't care who gets the credit. And
yes.
I think that's kind of the essence of Pattern, is we want to do really big things. We don't care whose name is on it, because we're all going to contribute. And that's what I love. You asked about, who do I admire at
Sure.
Pattern?
Or who inspires you?
I'll start at the top. I think Dave and Mel, what they've created is super special, but it's less about like the financial results and the growth. Yes, that's cool, but I see that as a byproduct of the DNA that they've built into this. So yes, bringing in very smart people with very little egos. And then building a business that is focused on 100% on supporting the brand's growth, mm-hmm. and taking out as much of the skin in the game for us. So, for example, on advertising, we pass 100% of that spend through so that there will never be a conflict of interest, where we'll never want to go to a brand and say, hey, you need to increase your ad spend because, by the way, we know we get 10% cut of that. That's not the case. The only reason we'll go and ask for increased spend is because there is an incremental opportunity for the brand to grow and to build a healthy, long-standing business. That's just one example of many where they've built Pattern to be solely focused on winning and helping the brands win. So if the brands don't win, Pattern doesn't win. If the brands win, we win. And that's I love. And it's so simple, but it's so easy to get distracted in, and tempting to try to dip our fingers into that margin for the brand. And I love that they've held true to that. So,
and it's a trickle down effect, because it like from a sales perspective, it's an amazing, like going out and selling that, saying this media, it's pass through. We're not taking our 20% margin. We're doing this for the brand. It makes it that much more authentic of a sale from our perspective as well.
Yeah, and it helps us serve brands better. So last week, as always happens in business, we ran into an issue with a brand and trying to figure out what's the best path forward. And so sitting down with few other leaders. And the amazing thing is, as we're trying to solve this issue, what's right for Pattern didn't come up till the very end of that conversation. We said, what's right for the brand? How do we make sure we set them up for success? Then what's right for our marketplace and those partners there? Then finally, great, if we can solve those, how do we make sure that we stay in business along the way? And I love that order of operation, because if we do it that way, then that sets us up for kind of a long roadway ahead of us.
Totally.
Yeah, so I would say those two. I really admire. I admire Jason Beasley. He's our CFO. I love sitting in a room and just listening to him and learning from him. And whatever he does in a very measured way. Mm-hmm. Doesn't overreact, doesn't underreact, but just is a fantastic listener. So I love his leadership skills. John LeBaron, whenever I'm in a meeting, I leave more excited about whatever we happen to be talking about. He's just a natural salesman. He's a natural leader and a natural cheerleader. And so, yeah, I love any chance to rub shoulders with them. And then Carolyn, who is our CMO, I think she is our best people leader. She is people first. Anyone that gets a chance to work with Carolyn instantly loves her, and I can learn a lot from her of how to interact and bring a team along in a way that inspires and builds kind of a passion of teamwork.
Totally agree. Obviously, we're coming off the heels of our big Accelerate conference where you were on stage with one of the sharks, which, by the way, great job. I would have been a bit intimidated being on stage with one of the sharks. How was that?
Yeah, Damon John. A professional, super classy guy, very humble, and I loved hearing his story. Where obviously he's, built multi-billion-dollar company. He is a celebrity now, an investor. But when you talk to him, it just doesn't feel that way at all. And he, always brings up his past of, losing his father early on and having his single mother kind of help raise him, and how he leaned in on entrepreneurship, not because it was only a passion, but it was kind of to survive and help the family. So anyone has a chance, take a look at his books. I actually talked to him right before the interview on stage and complimented him, because a lot of the books, especially as you kind of get into these like guru self-help books, they'll spend the entire book talking about themselves and how they are, the gift from God to all of us. Sure. And what he's done is he's actually just highlighted heroes that are in his life and have, and talks and has them actually teach the different principles. And then he'll pepper in some thoughts along the way. But I really like that structure and the humility of that, to say, hey, yes, I'll write this book, but I don't know everything. I'm going to pull some best practices and thought leaders from the opportunity I've had to work with others, bring it in and offer that up to readers. So anyway, would suggest everyone to have a chance to look at that, specifically The Power of Broke and Rise and Grind were two great books. Like
any conference now in 2025, there was a lot of chat about AI. And I don't think I have to ask, just because, it's big. We have a huge opportunity with AI. What are your thoughts on Pattern and AI and the future of AI and how Pattern incorporates it?
One example of what I love about Pattern is, AI is in the bones of the company. Talk about early adopters. The team has been all in on AI for years. This isn't a recent trend for Pattern, and you can see that in the products and the tech that we've rolled out. Specifically like Destiny, where you've got an ad tech that intuitively identifies of all of the products and all of the hundreds of thousands of keywords that a brand could advertise on. It identifies the ones that have the best chance of winning organic rank the fastest. And we'll spend towards that until we reach organic ranking. And then again, intelligently moves that spend to the next sets of keywords until those rank. Like that whole process is so cool and just a delight to watch perform. The brands that Pattern has partnered with the longest is performing the best, which isn't typically the case, right? You'll usually see, especially with agencies or others, you'll see a real quick ramp up and then a plateau, and sometimes even a decline. But the only reason that works for Pattern is, and the reason why these brands that have partnered with us the longest, is because that tech works, that they are building a giant moat of organically ranking keywords that are allowing them to, when they do spend, to spend it on truly incremental opportunities. So they're constantly growing and growing without the reliance of ad spend to do it. So that's just one example. A lot of really cool examples that were shared in Accelerate that go more towards the content piece. Because you can do a lot of advertising, you can drive a lot of traffic to your detail pages, but if your content isn't very good, you're just not going to see that conversion, and you won't see as good of a return as you should get. And so Pattern is spending a lot of time now in developing AI that can drive conversion better than anyone. And that's objective, not subjective, right? So through this AI and through content briefs and some exciting initiatives that were shared at Accelerate, Pattern can identify for a single product hundreds of its competitors and identify why are those competitors converting in some areas better than this one product. It'll take that learning, share that up, offer it up in a very clear brief, and allow the brand and Pattern, if we're a partner, to be able to make those optimizations and grow. Like, that's just one example of we're basically taking the manual effort out of the e-commerce equation and allowing the data to guide these strategies. So that's super exciting. Maybe the last thing that I love about Pattern is that again, it's in our core, we believe it, and the fact that we have provide access to every employee to spend as much time as they want in the ChatGPTs and different AI tools that are out there for free, just so that we are not only aware of it, but we become advocates of that to know how to use that in every facet of our job. I feel like I'm woefully behind, but I love that we're encouraged to use it, and now I'm pulling in my wife. Like my kids got into it. We started at night. We will use ChatGPT to create a bedtime story, and so what they'll say is like, all right, I'll say like, all right, who's the hero? What kind of animal is the villain, and what's the big problem? And then we'll put it in, and then we'll read it together, and I just love it. The future is super bright with AI.
Totally. Speaking of the future, and kind of our last set of questions, and just, I guess, general thoughts on where you see e-commerce going, and I guess also, where do you see Pattern in a year from now, but also where do you see Pattern in 10 years from now?
So exciting with e-commerce. There's no question it's going to continue to grow. That's just going, because it's easier for consumers. It's easier for me. I love to wake up and have what I need for the day sitting on my front porch. And it will only get faster and more convenient. I think when, in my role with International, I can see some best practices from different marketplaces all around the world. In Korea, I think they are doing it better than most anyone, where in 15 minutes I can get my favorite dish from my favorite restaurant on my door. It's still warm, it's still steaming, and so you'll have consumers, because it's so easy, that they will order, all right, I'm going to order my favorite burger from this restaurant, I'm going to order my favorite fries from that restaurant, I'm going to have my favorite milkshake. Yep. and salad, just so that I can tell myself I'm healthy. Those are all from 4 different restaurants, and they're all arriving in 15 minutes. That's the future, and that's where we will get, which is...
That sounds like a lazy Sunday for me here in Miami, but probably just not as quick as 15 minutes. I have to wait a bit longer with the traffic here.
And it's lazy, it's convenient, whatever you want to say it, but that's what we want. Right? And so we'll continue to move in that direction. Fast commerce in India, they're doing some just incredible things where they're actually repurposing ma shops. So they're no longer selling in these ma shops, but they're actually using them as distribution centers to drive fast commerce. And so these mom and pop shops are fine not selling because they're getting a cut of this inventory, but it's allowing for consumers that, hey, I realized I don't have my batteries. I just bought my kid this toy. I can get the batteries in 5 to 10 minutes, and it's sitting at my door. That's the future of e-commerce, and I'm super excited about that. The only way that we can get to that speed is through AI and automation. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be having people sit down and type in different campaigns and campaign structures. So super excited. We kicked this off last year on the advertising team in the US, where the goal that we had was by the end of 2025, 75% of every manual task that they do would become automated. So that's deck automation, that is campaign automation, campaign budget management, all automated. And that's not an intent for us to reduce our workforce. That's allowing that team to now spend that time to go super deep for their brands to say, hey, have you even thought of this subcategory? It's growing like crazy. Hey, have you thought of, changing your products so that you can, convert better? That's the type of strategy that you can't automate, but you can only get there if you take out all of the manual day-to-day work to give you that brain space to do that. So couldn't be more excited for e-commerce, for Pattern, and for our partners, because it's going to be an exciting few years ahead.
Cool. I think we got plenty of amazing sound bites from that. So I think we can edit that up, and I think we're probably pretty good. Brett, thank you so much.
Thanks for the chance. This was fun. Appreciate it.